So you had 3 witnesses that were dead, killed in the crash. You have Singh and then his passenger, neither of whom spoke English. If you had someone that had survived, then you may have been able to get probable cause at the scene. As it is, the witnesses were dead. It is not meant for motorists to just do a U-turn. It is certainly not meant for a semi-truck to do an abrupt U-turn. I don't think he knew what was going on. It was reckless disregard for the safety of other people. He attempted a very reckless U-turn with a massive truck, knowing how very dangerous that is. This guy knew what he was doing. Well, a couple things. I think one is the witnesses were dead. So you had 3 witnesses that were dead, killed in the crash. You have Singh and then his passenger, neither of whom spoke English. So you have a crash scene. It wasn't obvious to the troopers at the time that there was a criminal offense that had been committed, and so they obviously had to clear the road to make sure everyone was in. But they understood this guy. They had his information. They did what was right. They conducted an investigation. They got the video, and then clearly it was a situation where there was probable cause that a crime had been committed. We were able to do the extradition, and it was fine. But if you had someone that had survived, then you may have been able to get probable cause at the scene. As it is, the witnesses were dead, and so the troopers had to rely on getting the video, which obviously wasn't apparent. Now, we did do an announcement. The Attorney General did an announcement in Bay County. They were able to nab some folks. We are looking at, with these weigh stations, to be able. Now, it's tricky because we as a state don't have access to the immigration information, right? So if DHS gave it to us, if it's California license, we don't recognize California licenses granted to illegal aliens. If you could do a spot check, we'll absolutely do that. I think what they're at least able to do, though, is ensure that the drivers coming through are able to read and understand English, because this guy couldn't speak English. And you guys have all seen these roads where you'll go, these are busy highways, and there'll be little gaps in them, for official use only or this or that. It is not meant for motorists to just do a U-turn. It is certainly not meant for a semi-truck to do an abrupt U-turn. And so I don't think he knew what was going on. It was reckless disregard for the safety of other people. And he tries to do this abrupt U-turn, and that other car didn't have a chance. That other car didn't have a chance. So, and I know the Attorney General is asking the Trump administration to consider pausing CDL programs in California and Washington State, because first of all, you're not allowed to issue a CDL to somebody who is not in this country legally. You're not allowed to issue a CDL to somebody who is not capable of understanding traffic signs and have an ability to communicate, and yet they seem to do that without much pushback. That creates dangers for other people. Obviously, I blame. California's a sanctuary state. Their problems spill over to the rest of the country, as we're seeing. This guy came illegally, and he went to California, and he went to sanctuary jurisdictions. So that's just what happens. So yes, that's a huge problem. The company is at fault here too, because if you're running a company like this, you should know whether your drivers are capable of handling a vehicle of that magnitude. That is, if somebody's not able to do it, you're putting a lot of people's lives in jeopardy. The federal government took away the license, the business license from that company. I mean, obviously, there's probably going to be additional stuff that happens there, but certainly, I think we're looking at: are there any ability for us to hold the company accountable at the state level in addition to the federal level? Because I think that you need to do it. But this driver, he made the decision to get behind the wheel of that thing, knowing that he was not able to fully understand his surroundings and fully understand what was on the road. And that created a massive hazard and it resulted in the death of 3 people. I was asked the other day, like, oh, there's a bunch of people like in foreign countries that are signing a thing to say basically, go lenient on him, like he didn't intend, to kill these folks. Well, I was like, well, he intended to get behind the wheel knowing that he didn't have the full capacity to be able to handle that vehicle. He was driving it around knowing that he was not well situated to do that. He attempted a very reckless U-turn with a massive truck, knowing how very dangerous that is. So the notion that somehow this guy wasn't really at fault, that he was kind of, they almost portraying him as like a victim of what happened here. I don't buy that. This guy knew what he was doing. And, did he intend to do a clean U-turn and not run into anybody or have anyone run into him? Yeah, that was probably the intent, but the reality is it was a reckless disregard for the safety of others to do what he did. And, it's it's an avoidable tragedy is what it is. About the what? I'm sorry? Okay.
That FDOT gave them planning innovation year, and now something that they raised money for and the kids helped paint are now getting stripped away that they just finished funding.
Do you want to talk about that specific issue? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So basically, anything that was previously permitted or installed or awarded, anything you can bring up from the past essentially is irrelevant now because we have a new law and we have a new standard. And we're simply implementing that standard, and it's across the board. Pavement art is not allowed, and we're removing everything that's not compliant with state, federal standards, and that's the approach that we're taking. We did an inventory of more than 400 locations across the state, and it's all kinds of art. And so, this is one of those locations that's part of that. And, as we continue to implement this, we're going to be working with our local government partners.
Yeah, but I do think it's important to point out that, there was a law that was enacted. So I get like what may have happened, years ago. No one was doing anything wrong per se. But I think there was a feeling amongst the elected officials, certainly in other parts of the country, it had gotten way out of control to where really the safety and the use of the roads was almost secondary to people being able to appropriate that for different types of messaging. But the legislature passed it. I think it passed unanimously. I think in the Senate it did. I don't know about the House. I signed it into law, and then Jared and his agency issued the guidance. And so what I would tell kids is, we have a representative system of government. People elect their representatives. They're able to enact legislation with the governor's signature, and then when that happens, then obviously people will conform the conduct accordingly. And so I don't think those kids were doing anything wrong. I think it's just a change in policy, and we don't want to be in a situation where we're playing whack-a-mole. So, oh well, no, that mural's fine, but that's not. We think the pedestrians may get confused there. We think a driver, oh no, that's fine. This. Because, then you get into like, oh, is there a content thing and all that? No, we're just not doing it. That we're out of that business in Florida. And so all they're doing is just enforcing the law that had been passed. And I understand there may be people that disagree with it. There's laws that are on the books that I enforce that I may not fully agree with, but I took an oath to do it. And so that's the way the cookie crumbles. And so, but there was a change in law. There was a change in guidance that has been issued. And now with the Trump administration, they are very aggressive on saying that the roads should not have the markings on them, and that's not the appropriate thing to do. So I think you kind of have agreement now, state, federal. I think we're all swimming in the same direction. Most local governments, I think, are fine. They're like, look, if the law changes, the law changes. You're always going to have the Key Wests of the world that are going to virtue signal. That's just what they do. I get it. I know, not my first rodeo. But the reality is, they don't have a legal leg to stand on here. Jared put out the information. They had an opportunity to correct. I think, has that elapsed yet, or do they still have more time?